The council meeting tonight is a workshop meeting, so I do want to remind you we will not be taking any official action on any of the items we discussed. That action will be taken at our regular meeting, which is the second Monday. And of course, these meetings are open to the public, so anyone who is interested is certainly welcome to attend. We do publicize these meetings on our YouTube channel. Hayward, we appreciate very much the Fun Channel being with us so we can share this information with our community.
Always fun.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The first item on our agenda, and by the way, we do have agendas here on the podium if anyone would like to grab one so that you can follow along, or my trusty assistant Hayward will pass those out if you'd like. So feel free to help yourself. The first two items on our agenda are something that we always enjoy doing, and that is working with various citizens in our community who agree to serve on the many boards that the city oversees. We have several vacancies on some of our other boards, so if there is any citizen out there who's interested in serving in any capacity with the city, let us know, and we'll certainly work with you in that accord. But I'd like to invite Dennis Whitehead and Bryant Hill to come forward, if you will. Let's see, from what I understand, where's Jonathan? He wants us over here by the podium, is that right?
Yes. Jessica, if you get the mic, please.
Okay. So gentlemen, let's see. I can. So I just want to make sure we get, is this good? I don't know which direction they want me facing. Let's see, Dennis, if you want to come forward first, we'll go ahead and have you sworn in. And Dennis is going to be appointed this evening to the Tifton Housing Authority. So I'd just like to say publicly, thank you very much for your service. We appreciate it very much. And the role that you're filling is very important to this community. So we just thank you for that. I'm going to read the oath of office, and following that, I will ask you if you affirm, and you'll just answer yes, you do, or I do, however you're comfortable. So the oath of office is that I, Dennis Whitehead, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties as a member of the Tifton Housing Authority of this city, and that I will support and defend the Charter of the City of Tifton, as well as the Constitution and laws of the State of Georgia and the United States of America. I shall attend all meetings of the body to which I have been appointed, unless providentially hindered. I shall abide by the City Council and the rules of disclosure applicable thereto. Unless disqualified by the standards for conflicts of interest, I shall actively participate in all the decisions of the body to which I have been appointed. I shall attend at city expense any training mandated by the State of Georgia. I shall also attend as scheduled any special training arranged by the City of Tifton. Do you hereby affirm?
I do.
Thank you. You are now a member of the Tifton Housing Authority. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right, and I'll ask Mr. Bryant Hill. Bryant, if you'll come forward, and we'll go through the same process. So I'd like to also thank you publicly for your agreeing to serve, and I understand you're doing wonderful things with our housing authority already, so thank you for that as well. So we're looking forward to great things. And your oath of office is basically the same. It says, I, Bryant Hill, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties as a member of the Tifton Housing Authority Board of this city, and that I will support and defend the Charter of the City of Tifton, as well as the Constitution and laws of the State of Georgia and of the United States of America. I shall attend all meetings of the body to which I have been appointed, unless providentially hindered. I shall abide by the standards for conflicts of interest adopted by the City Council and the rules of disclosure applicable thereto. Unless disqualified by the standards for conflicts of interest, I shall actively participate in all the decisions of the body to which I have been appointed. I shall attend at city expense any training mandated by the State of Georgia. I shall also attend as scheduled any special training arranged by the City of Tifton. Do you affirm?
I do.
Congratulations, and thank you very much. We appreciate very much. So thank you, gentlemen, and you're welcome to stay with us and enjoy this exciting meeting that's going to come next, or you can leave if you'd like to. So we'll leave that up to you, but thank you again for your service. We appreciate that. All right, we are on to new business now, and the next person to come before us will be Mr. Ricky Hobby, who is going to review the proposals received for the crawler dozer at the Tifton-Tipp County landfill.
Yes, this dozer, present dozer, was on our 5-year buyback program, and it is coming due in 2020.
Okay.
So this is the reason we're looking at doing another dozer. We've had 5 proposals sent out 3 were returned with all meeting specs. This is a replaced current unit 1022. That's Caterpillar D6 Dozier. The funds were coming from the capital improvement program, and the proposal also includes 5-year buyback for this machine too. But we are looking at an option of leasing the machine. So,
Okay.
you know, we may be going that route, which is very similar to the buyback program. With the city's best interest in mind, staff recommends awarding the proposal to Yancey Brothers, Valdosta, for the following facts. The high track system is the Caterpillar Dozier. It keeps a working mechanism, if you will. The final drive, which is, you know, what pulls the machine, keeps it up out of the garbage. Versus a low track machine, which Caterpillar also sells that too. And also it removes the shock load from the final drive, therefore it's less maintenance on this particular drive. Power shift with torque converter transmission is also preferred in the landfill environment. Also the recommendations of the operators due to comfort and ease of operation. And they also have 2 service centers within 50 miles, and our past experience with Caterpillar, I've been doing this I've been here 20 years, and I know that that's the only machine that's been on the landfill for that period of time.
Okay.
And the service has been great. The upfront price difference in the machines is due to the high track system and the value of the machinery at the end of the 5 years. They just offer more for their equipment at the end of the 5-year period.
She sounds like kind of get what you paid for.
Right. Yancey Brothers' proposal was for $379,474 with a net 5-year cost of $254,474. And I think you do have another sheet there that shows you the breakdowns has all of the TM&Rs, which is a total maintenance contract but that's in your operating budget. That will be set in the operating budget.
Can Johnny look over your copy of that, just so he's got everything, and then, Johnny, look at Pete's stuff, and then, when you get through with that, then you can give that back to him, and then, so I want everyone to have a copy in case there's any questions or anything.
Are the buybacks, is that an estimate, or is that,
That's a
is that
guarantee.
written into the contract?
Yes, that's a guaranteed buyback contract within
So
itself.
our buyback 5 years ago, they honored that?
Exactly, yeah.
We will be selling our machine that we have now too, so we're gonna sell that on Gov Deals. We didn't do a buyback on this particular model, but
You normally get a better, if you put it on Gov Deals, we start with the buyback price as a minimum. And from there it escalates. So that's why we choose to go to Gov Deals route, but for whatever reason, if we needed to, they would buy that machine back for that price.
At that price, okay, all right, good deal.
Okay.
yeah, Ricky and I've had a lot of discussion about this. I recommend to you that we follow staff's recommendation. Again, this is a budgeted item, and if you concur, what I'd like to do is send it to the county just to make sure they know
Absolutely.
about that.
Yeah, okay. All right, while you're here, Ricky, do you want to give us just maybe a quick update on everything at the landfill? Everything's going good after the last rain?
Yeah, we had right at 6 inches of rain
Yeah.
over the weekend, but the roads were prepared.
Excellent.
Had no problem getting the trucks in
Good.
and out. A
Good.
little slower, but
Well,
I mean,
that happens, yeah.
it's gonna be, slower this time.
Right.
We've processed all the storm debris at the inert landfill. It's all mulch now, so we're looking good there. And they cleaned up well before they left, so
Good.
we're in good shape.
Excellent.
So
That's good
just
to hear.
give it a little sunshine and wind.
There you go. That's all we need.
Can I just add just
Uh-huh.
one thing to that? In our landfill discussions, one of the main things that we have to do is build a road up to the landfill. I've sent that to the county manager, asking if the their public works department wanted to do it internally. We would pay them to do the work, but I have not heard back from them yet, and that was a couple weeks ago. So Ricky and I have to make a decision. That's one of the things that has to happen here after the first year, so we'll be working on that very, very soon.
Okay. All right, so when you send us over to the county to review, can you just ask them again? Okay. Okay, good deal. All right, any questions, comments on these bids we've received this evening? Okay, thank you, Ricky.
Thank you.
Good report, thank you. All right, item number 2 under new business is the redevelopment areas, discussing non-conforming lots, structures, and uses. And Pete, I will turn that over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'm passing out, Mayor and Council, this is section 9-01, non-conforming lots and structures and uses, and I will tell you that we are ready to move forward in the next step with the Matt Wilson redevelopment process, and obviously have to address this situation. So I'd like Danny to come on forward and talk about this. Again, I have the current section, the way it reads. In your packet, we have the language that would be inserted at letter C, very, very small, and then on a map on the back of the handout that Danny's going to talk about real quickly. But it's really time to do this. Again, we are ready to finalize application. We're talking about where we are in the process, and the zoning obviously is a key factor when you're talking about changes, improvements, grant applications, et cetera. So Danny, you want to?
Yes, we just wanted to make it clear in our ordinances, at the request of Rob, to make sure it's very clear. Our zoning laws allow for non-conforming uses, so we just want to make sure it's on good solid ground for whenever we start this process.
So, and if you want to talk through, and what we're talking specifically, when we talk about non-conforming, it's anything that doesn't fit in. So if you look at the map, there's 2 areas that we really want to zone in on. And if you'll see Old Amiga Road, you'll see Captain's Point, and then right across the street, there is another section, MHP. So those are the 2 areas designated that we really want to talk about, because obviously with the housing, with the comp plan for sure, which also was in your packet, the comp plan talks specifically about that we're moving this way in the future. Again, it's a snapshot, and again, it's not against anything, but we have to set the tone for if there are any changes for the positive, especially for the community, and things that we need to write specifically for the grant in this particular case, that we have to make them in accordance with the comp plan and to what we want to improve the overall neighborhood. So this Captain's Point area, we would make consistent, and you see to the right of it, everything is R8. Right, so we would make that consistent with R8 designation. Again, still the zoning would be giving us the latitude to talk about lots, talk about single-family homes, but then again, we're talking about buildings and possibly multi-residential type applications. So we will have to come back, but it really helps with this particular zoning for our application process. Across the street, you can see all the R10 that surrounds that. Again, it butts up to the Housing Authority, and that too will probably be down the road involved in some type of housing improvement. So these are the 2 areas that we really want to address now with the zoning, and then take a look at our application for the housing, what the community wants to see as far as infill. So R8 does allow for mobile homes, and R10 is those are all single-family homes. So again,
So when we taking that piece that we're talking about, we're going to zone it R10.
this will have to be R8 for right now.
It could even go into something, now this is just, just an example what's going to happen. But if someone wanted to come in and acquire that piece and do like a planned development overlay so that you can get the density of housing and things like that, there's a lot of options that would be open. But what this does is it secures the kind of the base or the foundation zonings to assure that it would be residential.
And we also talked about neighborhood commercial would do the same thing. Neighborhood commercial would, that if you wanted to have a store or a building, some kind of center, that would be very, very consistent with that. So I would recommend not changing it outside of what's surrounding it. We need the designation right now to apply. R8 gives us some latitude, R10 is a little more specific, but I think the mayor's right that the planned overlay would probably be most applicable if we want to do multi-residential on Capps Point, and that's probably where we're going with it.
And R8 allows that, right? Does R10 allow that?
R10
Yes.
does,
No,
no,
I don't think
no,
so.
it does not.
Similar.
But just to give you an example, the Cypress Ridge neighborhood is a planned development overlay.
Right.
And within that, you have different sizes of houses and lots and things like that. So it respects and adheres to the base zoning of the residential aspect of it. But then it allows that flexibility within the base zoning to do what needs to be done, so.
Absolutely.
So making this change, when we talk about non-conforming, we are changing the zoning. This has no impact on the current structures there.
Right.
This has.
This is
we're
for
not
future
removing it,
development, yeah.
We're not doing anything, it has no,
Okay.
we have no impacts whatsoever. Now, if it is changed, anything in the future, if something happens in these two particular areas, it becomes non-conforming, then it would not be allowed at that point. Does that make sense?
Anybody have any
Okay.
questions? Everybody clear?
Just
Johnny, you good on that?
basically, Once you change the zoning, that then what creates your non-conforming use.
Mhm.
And then once it becomes a non-conforming use, you can continue to use that, until it's no longer being used for that purpose.
Right.
And, the changes that, the small changes that I made in the proposed zoning ordinance basically clarifies that no new structure can replace the existing structure. I think the ordinance already says that, but I just want to make it clear that in the event, you cannot replace a structure that's within that non-conforming use.
Right, okay.
Let me ask this, and it's just because the zoning is not my expertise by any means, but when they did the development over on 13th Street, in that 13th and 15th, it's zoned multi-residential, or, yeah, MR multi-residential. Would it,
You talking about Tifton Estates?
yeah,
Okay. That's
No,
on
right.
13th and,
see that pink area right there? Isn't that the development, isn't that the Tipton Estates?
right here.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the housing authority.
The state's is on 17th Street.
It's on, yeah, it's right, it's still zone multi-residential, but I didn't know if it come over there.
Yeah, up above it, and the mobile home park, that's South Central,
Yeah, that's South Central.
but that's
Uh,
part of the housing authority, if I remember right, Danny, the zoning is consistent with.
What street is Tifton Estates on,
It's
Johnny?
on
Which is
17th.
that? 17th?
Tiffany State comes 13th and a half, it goes down.
It's right here, right?
That's right.
Right, yeah.
So I'm guessing
It's
is,
really 13th and a half Street, it's 13th Street, it's 13th and a half Street.
It's in between them, right?
I'm trying to remember
Between
what's
17th and 13th and a half,
what's the cross street? Is it Park?
the cross street for Tiffany State?
Yeah, is it Park? I always get Park and Ridge backwards. Is it
No.
Park?
No.
Central.
Or is it the
No,
one?
Okay. Avenue's over here.
It's, the cross street would be Central.
Yeah.
Okay, Central, okay.
I guess, would we be able to, I guess, manage the project that we wanted to, if we put it in as multi-residential, then whoever comes to us said, okay, here's the design of it, then we change from there? Because if it's zoned R8, wouldn't any of the adjoining parcels be able to move into an R8? So let's say, for instance, I know this is the housing authority across the street here, but, this little parcel right here looks like a mobile home park, it could go to a R8.
That's the one that's directly across from Matt Wilson,
That's it?
yeah.
Or did the school buy that one? Is that the parcel?
School
The school bought that.
Oh, okay.
So again, this cleans up some lines.
Yeah.
That's what we've talked about it numerous times. But I think to answer your question is I didn't want to stick, it doesn't make any sense to stick something by R8 to R10, because if we have non-conforming lots, if the lots are too small, then you're not able to build on them. So we gotta be.
Yeah, my question at the end of the day
we
was,
gotta
you
be
think that
careful.
R8 is the correct zone?
I think, for right now, as we clean up and consistent with the comp plan, I think the R8 for Capps Point, I think that's the way to go. On the other side of the street, it's to stay with R10 and leave it that way. When we decide on the infill application for housing, then we do a planned overlay, and it may encompass some of the other areas too, because don't forget, we're starting small, but then as the rings go out with Matt Wilson, ultimately, you hear next meeting, Bruce Green, he has put the plan together that's very consistent way out on the boundaries, and now we have to work with the county. We've got to talk about zoning in different manners if we start developing those rings. So I think it's most consistent where our nucleus is right now, and then it gives us the flexibility to work with a developer that offers multi-residential, or if we need a community-type building, or something else that we can do an overlay right here at Capps Point and be very, very consistent.
But the key to it is the overlay. That's what gives you that little bit of flexibility to.
I know on the, here's, I guess my vision for this whole project is to build similar, how I'm thinking in my mind, like almost keep it like Cypress Ridge, almost.
Well, and if we want to go in, once we get our
I know
zoning.
R8, that the
Yeah.
minimum square footage size is a lot smaller,
Right.
you know.
But we can even go in, once we get our zoning in place, and Bruce will go over all this with us, we can go in and develop design guidelines. We can say, it has to be built to a certain specification with, maybe we say it has to be brick, or it has, I'm just throwing ideas out.
Yeah.
This is not an absolute, just to give you some examples. So, we can require that the development, because what we're looking at doing, again, not only improving the neighborhood, but in improving the tax base. And if you look at the areas around town that have the specific restrictions that we're talking about, they have the greatest value. They retain their value or increase in value more so than areas that don't. So this is just that first step. There'll be a lot more steps that will come later on with regard to what Bruce's recommendations are going to be and how we want to move forward with those. But to get just the zoning is the base, that's step one.
Right.
And so we'll be looking at this area a lot over the next couple of months to sort of figure out how we want it to look, what the neighborhood expects as the developer comes to the table, what they need and what they expect and what they're willing to do. So there'll be a lot more discuss. This isn't just this is done and now we're finished with that
So
parcel.
this is just what, to give us flexibility to begin with?
Yes.
Then we can look at the future,
Yeah.
what we need to adjust.
Yes. Well, not just the flexibility, but in essence, like Rob said, assuring that once something comes out of service, it's not allowed to be brought back into service with a
Right.
so it, yeah.
Right. That's
Okay,
it,
yeah.
that's it.
And this was already in the land development code, so we're not really changing anything. In my opinion, what we're doing is just clarifying, because that non-conforming information was already in the code, but it wasn't clear sometimes. As we've worked through this land development code, we found, there have been times where things aren't always so clear. So this should clarify that, so that there's no question, so that all the parts of the land development code work together.
So just to be clear, just on your first handout, on the first page, where the asterisk is on C, the only thing that we will be adding is the language that's in your book, where it says expanded or extended, or existing structures replaced. That's the only thing we're adding to our current.
And when you read the non-conforming sections of the land development code, it really says that, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that if, there's, no existing structures can be replaced. It cannot, it already says it cannot be expanded, you can't use more floor space, but I didn't want to have to be arguing the intent, and I figured we would just go ahead and make it clear.
All right, so all right, so let me ask this. On an R8, and a mobile home is destroyed for whatever reason, through act of God or fire, however, whatever. Once the structure is replaced, that zoning goes, because there's some, I think, that are R8 that have been moved to general business, but they're grandfathered in.
Maybe your question's a little confusing. Basically, if it's R8, mobile homes are permitted in R8.
Right.
Okay. And people use mobile home, manufactured homes, kind of interchangeably. But basically, if you take something like, Captain's Point, Prince
Right.
Park, basically, those mobile homes or manufactured homes within the park can continue to be maintained and repaired, as time goes on.
Right.
But that's all you can do. And so the idea of non-conforming uses is that over a period of time, they will ultimately expire. I mean, a mobile home is not going to last forever. So it may be 15 years, it could be 20 years. But the bottom line is that once those existing non-conforming structures no longer exist, and you cannot replace it with other structures, then naturally then it becomes, it's no longer can be used as a mobile home park. Therefore, it then has to be converted to a conforming use.
All right, so my question, if a hurricane come through Tipton and I owned a trailer park and it obliterated every mobile home in there, luckily everybody lives. However, the mobile homes are no longer there. I would not be able to move mobile homes back in there.
That is my recollection.
That is correct.
Now,
I just
but-
want to make sure I understand.
yeah,
what
but
you're
let's,
saying.
let's back it up a little bit, just to add to that. Let's say you just had a little, let's say there was a little stove fire or something. But, with that repair, the house, would be fine and your tenant could remain, or your property owner could remain, or whoever. That can be repaired because it's still a valid property. Is that a fair
And
statement?
basically, this is how it
And it
reads.
addresses that in there.
Yeah, it says a structure damaged or destroyed by any means to the extent of more than 50% of its fair market value at the time of destruction shall be reconstructed only in conformity with the provisions of this LDC. So basically, you're looking at the fair market value. It says, if you have, if it's damaged, less than 50%, may be restored and occupied as before the damage, providing that the restoration is commenced within 6 months, and the reconstruction is not, if it's not commenced within 6 months, then it has to be moved to conforming. So the idea of if something is damaged, if it's damaged more than, less than 50%, then you can repair it.
And to use your hurricane example, let's say just some windows blew out, but the structure was all still there. That's not gonna be more than 50% of the value. You come in and replace the windows and life goes on.
All right, but hear about this. What if, because we changed the square footage on a lot of the zoning. So let's say that my house was non-conforming square footage wise. Now it's destroyed. My insurance is only going to replace what I have, not having to add another 400 or 500 square foot like we've done.
Did we change R8?
R8 got reduced the last to 800 square foot.
Well, I'm talking about, this is gonna go over every zoning, not just R8.
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah, so this would affect R10, R12, R20s,
Mhm.
so what I'm saying is that, do we have to change it?
Well, but,
Until we
okay.
get that developer that comes in,
But stop and think though, how much non-conforming property do we have in those other zoning districts? In this particular zoning district, it's a lot.
oh, there's no doubt.
So,
There's no doubt.
and I would have to turn to you, Danny, to answer that question. How much, what would you say the likelihood of that happening in any of the other zoning districts?
It's highly unlikely, and I just did a quick count of this particular area, and all I covered was R8.
Sure.
Because that's all I had time for, to be
Right.
honest with you. And on my little map, I put dots to show the lots that are currently non-conforming. So if you'd like to look at that.
You have a total count there?
Oh, boy.
I didn't count them.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.
The reason why
Almost
this,
42 lots.
the reason for this change, as I said, the main purpose of a non-conforming use is to ultimately discontinue that use.
Right.
If you could continue to replace structures within the non-conforming area, then it would continue on again forever.
Right.
And so the idea, again, is that you can maintain them, you can repair them, but you can't replace them, because if you allowed the replacement of the structure, then you're really defeating the whole idea of a non-conforming use and would just continue on, when the goal is to get it conforming to the surrounding areas.
When is Bruce gonna be meeting with us
He's gonna be here on the 17th.
for our next council meeting?
Mhm.
Okay, so I think Bruce could probably address some of your questions as well regarding how this has worked in other communities, or, you know, how this is going to be impacting someone if they had a scenario like you're talking about, so.
Yeah, I just don't wanna open up a can of worms on some, you know, I mean, I just,
You don't want to create a hardship, I understand.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I get that,
And-
so.
the weather that we've had this year,
Mhm.
has, you know, got me thinking like that.
Right, right, and that's understandable. And I think it's prudent that we look at all aspects of this, not
Yeah.
make a, you know, just a rash decision,
Right.
because it sounds good on the surface, but, again, to go back and kind of recap what Rob was saying, it was really sort of already in there, well, it wasn't sort of, it was already in the land development code.
When they left up for interpretation.
Yeah.
That's kinda like what we wanna do though.
So, but this is just defining it a little bit better, so,
It's the friendly city.
it is the
Well, we can
reason.
litigate it if you want to.
No, I don't.
Johnny, did you have any kind, I know this is your district, so I wanna make sure that, that all your questions are answered, cause you'll probably get calls from people, your constituents, with questions and concerns, so.
Yeah, well, I think, Danny's asking questions, and your questions that you were asking were okay too. But mainly, I just want this council to be responsible. If we're gonna redevelop that area, let's do the whole thing. Let's don't just come in and do this and do that. So we're not picking on nobody, and
It's gotta be
we're not picking you out to be picked on, but we do want this area to be redeveloped, the whole area. You know, Captain Point, Travis Hurst, whoever owns a mobile home park in that district, we want to redevelop that at any cost. You know, it's been there a long time, and it's not getting any better. And like you said, if a tornado came in and took those out, would probably be the best thing ever happened. But putting them back now, if a tornado wiped them out, you know, nobody was hurt, be fine with me. But I don't wanna go back and put it back like it was.
Right, just open it back up.
No, I don't wanna do that.
Well, I guess more, and I get what you're saying, don't get me wrong, because I mean, obviously, that's what the intent of what we're doing with the Mount Wilson redevelopment area
Right.
is to redevelop it and create, better housing, living
Right,
conditions.
right, that's what we
know.
want better housing than what we got.
Right,
But, I mean, I don't know, sometimes, like the plan development overlay, that's something that you have to come in front of council and obtain and
That's
get or
exactly
whatever, so
right.
you can keep the zone no matter what it is, as long as
Right.
you, within that zoning and that plan development overlay, you have to follow those, you know, covenants. So, you know, you
Right.
can't, and I mean,
Right.
and that would, as long as you abide by the covenants, you can't
As long as you
do
abide
whatever
by the
you wanna
rules.
do, you know.
You
can't go
just can't
outside
come
the
in and
covenants.
just blop it down. You know, but if you go by the guidelines that we set here, that this council set, and go by what, if you, okay, say all those houses got took out. You couldn't put another structure, like, if you come in and put a better structure, made it, cause if you haven't been over there, look at some of those houses, those mobile homes there, then you wouldn't understand. But if you come and made it better to, confirm with the redevelopment, then, you know,
I guess
I got
what
it.
I'm saying at the end of the day is that the plan development overlay puts restrictions on that parcel.
Right.
We're talking about putting something on everything,
the
on
whole.
everybody.
Well, that's-
Everybody.
the way I read it is, as Rob said, it's just clarifying what we already have. So I mean, it's,
No, we don't have that. It's left, I'm telling you, because that's left up to interpretation, because you're adding something. If it was, if we were just clarifying something, it would already be in there somehow, but it's not.
So to Wes's point,
Where's
if
it-
you're,
where's it?
if this is left open to interpretation, is the reason why I drafted this. I don't want, if either you're gonna allow them to replace existing structures or you're not.
But we sit here and ask this man all the time for the, in the community development to use best judgment, you know, think outside the box, help these people do what they need to do on the property and things like that. And now we're giving him another restriction to go over there and add to, that's what I'm saying, the plan development overlays though restrict what can be developed on the single parcel. We're talking about putting something on everybody. Hey, whatever the council does is what the council does. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying what my vote is or not.
Yeah.
I'm just,
But understand that if you do not rezone that property, then a brand-new mobile home could be brought into that park and set up. That would be there for 30 years versus something
an
that'd be
entity
there
of the
for
city
5
of Tifton owns that parcel. So we're not
But
going to
not,
allow.
but that entity doesn't own that parcel at this moment,
Well, we have a contract on it. We're in the process of buying it,
Well, they have to.
so.
you know. So, I mean,
Well, it's just, again, we don't have to do this in
Yeah.
December.
Yeah.
Why don't we just,
no, I'm just,
pitch it
Yeah.
to Bruce.
Yeah, well, I mean, you brought up some very
I'm
valid,
playing devil's advocate.
well, and that's good. I mean, that's why I said that's what, you know, good discussion. I mean, that's,
For our, CDBG, and when we start doing the application, so a decision will probably have to be rendered in January,
yeah.
so.
But let's
that's
do
my
run all
plan.
these ideas by, and these questions and concerns by Bruce. He's our,
Yeah.
he's our expert, you know, our consultant
agree.
that we brought in and work, has, you know, has and will be working closely with Danny and Rob and Pete and all of us to make sure that this community is, you know, is the, yeah, it abides by the plan that we've come up with, so.
I also want to say that getting something rezoned, you don't just snap your fingers and it happens. You have to post it in the paper, a certain length of time. It has to go in front of P and Z, and then it has to come before.
Before council for approval.
Is there a
or
time
decline.
limit that you can put on a PDF?
No,
When you say-
PDOs are forever.
Forever.
Yeah, so, and at that instance, if you have a non-conforming lot, and somebody comes in and they want to develop it anyway, they can make application for a PDO for that. It would have to go in front of the P and Z, and they are a recommending body.
Right.
And then it would come to y'all for y'all's approval.
Right.
So, those lots that are currently non-conforming, we don't have a lot size smaller than R8 in our zoning ordinance. So, those lots, you can't do anything with them. So, in order to develop them, they would have to go through that PDO process or PUO process.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Danny.
And
Thanks.
they're all good questions, and thank you for that. So,
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
so we need to make sure that the, you know, that what we're doing, we're doing for, you know, because it's gonna be years and years and years down the road
That's
that
right.
people are impacted. So, any other questions or comments regarding the, non-conforming lots and structures and uses for the moment? All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you take one and pass that. Left. The next item is the updating ordinance for bulky waste. Again, this is, I'm just keeping this moving. In our previous discussion, the Solid Waste Committee has met. And again, we're zoning in on where the issues are. And Rob and Danny and myself met and talked about some language. And really, it boils down to, in this particular one, bulky waste. It's the goal for us to try to clean up the right-of-ways. And what we're experiencing are a lot of the piles that are left on the curb, and Richard Gold doesn't pick them up. They stay there for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and someone moves out, and we end up with the stuff on the roadside. So Ricky has looked at this as well, and just offering this as our, again, first continuing step on how to deal with our problems. But our current ordinance, the way it's written, it's a little vague because there are no specifics with regards to items on the curb and then timelines on the curb. So we're suggesting that 24 hours prior to beginning of collection, the date and time, you can't put out a pile, and then the number of items no more than 5 that you could be placed on the curbside at any one collection time. And then it goes into landlord, tenant, what the responsibilities really are. And this obviously is one of our biggest issues, is that upon eviction, if a tenant's material is placed on the curb, that it is the landlord's responsibility to deal with that property legally, and then obviously remove the debris and get it off the curb in a in a short time. So again, very, very small step, but again, if there's any questions, I'm just offering this as, again, a solution to some of the problems as we move towards a total rework of our ordinance and meeting that ultimate goal of cleaning up the right-of-way. So
Yeah, this is basically a first step in that.
it really is. Our biggest step is really education. I spoke with Richard, actually, Ricky and I spoke with Richard today to say, you know, Richard, you know, would you think that the city, we could do all the bulk pickup? And he said, yeah, sure. But I said, I'm gonna need, you know, a couple dollars to do that, to take care of the costs. And again, we couldn't do that on the telephone, but we were gonna talk some more about it. But I keep coming back to education is number one. But even though we have education, there's still gonna be code cases that are gonna be throughout the city. That's gonna be piles on the street. That's gonna equal pressure that we have to deal with. How do we deal with it? If we don't have the funds to properly deal with it, then obviously the general fund will suffer, and we've got to be very, very careful with that. So if Richard says, you know, he'll give us $1.50 per home to collect the debris, then I may bring that back to you and entertain it. That we could say, hey, we need a driver, we need a truck. Can we do this effectively? But that doesn't do anything for landlord-tenant responsibility. And Councilman Terrell, you and I have been talking about this for a long time, just about the piles and how they end up on the curb, and you know, no one takes, you know, responsibility for it. So we end up picking a lot up that we have to pay for. That's not budgeted. This gives us some definitions, very specific, as again a very small step forward in dealing with some of these issues. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, as you say, education is important, and enforcement. If we do something like this, we're gonna have to enforce it. I think in the past, we really haven't enforced these things.
That's where the trick is, because enforcement, that takes a lot of hustle. And you know, I'm really slowly, and I think I talked to some of you about adding someone from solid waste code enforcement person, and that's all they deal with, because realistically, they'd sure enough be busy 5 days a week.
Well, a lot of the big problem, of course, is these landlord tenants, and, you know, my thought is if there's been a writ of possession that's been issued, then if we could just make contact with the master court, see where, you know, where those writs have been issued, and that'll at least give code an idea about, you know, a location that this is actually taking place.
Would it be unreasonable to ask the magistrate court that when that landlord is there getting their writ of possession, to go ahead and give them a brochure or something that says, when you do this, this is what the city regulations are?
I'll be glad to talk to Mark York about
Okay.
that. I think
That might
would be
help.
helpful.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I think one of the problems we face mainly is that, you know, you could issue a writ of possession, if we don't know what day of the week it is or who's gonna collect it, and once it's out there, it could be out there for 2 weeks. And and the law does require the landlord, you know, to give the tenant an opportunity to recover his property once it's taken out of the house. There's no specific time limit that is. And that's why I was kind of looking at, okay, let's give them 48 hours to collect it, the tenant. And if they're not recovered within 48 hours, then it becomes the landlord's responsibility to dispose of it. But it's gonna be on his land. He's, you know, according to what I've drafted here, is that he's not allowed to put it on the streets, the sidewalk, or the curbside. And that's consistent with the Georgia statute that talks about when a tenant is evicted, it goes on the landlord's property or property the landlord designates. Of course, the landlord can't designate to put property on someone else's land, or else that's a trespass. So basically, this keeps it on his land. It gives them, you know, tenant 48 hours to pick it up, but then it becomes, you know, then it's abandoned, and then it becomes a landlord's responsibility under the accumulation, you know, part of our ordinances.
But yeah, if you could let Mark's office know
I will.
that we're working on this and we need their help to, you know, get the word out, because, you know, sometimes people just don't know,
And that's one
and
of
like
the,
you said, that's the education aspect of it, to make
Right.
sure people know.
and again,
so.
that's one of, I think, the biggest issues is making sure that everybody understands it and they're well informed.
Exactly. Okay, any other questions, comments regarding the bulky waste? Speak now, Wes. You good? Okay. Johnny, you good? Frank?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Pete. The next item on the agenda is recommendations to update the land development code regarding fences and walls in the central business district.
Okay, Rob and I will just talk just really quickly. I wanted to gauge your interest, and obviously downtown is very, very unique. Downtown is very tight in corridors with respect to alleys. So what happens obviously makes a very, very quick impact, whether positive or negative. And we've had some things happen along some of the alleys that, you know, depending on who you ask, is it a positive or a negative? And realistically, that doesn't matter. But what I'm concerned about in bringing this forward to you, just for discussion, it's not a DDA issue. This really is a policy issue and something that we need to discuss together. And that is, you know, changing some language with regards to the LDC and looking at alleyways downtown, and if we want to allow fences, walls, or any type of obstructions from the buildings that individual business owners could put up. And right now, if you meet the HP guidelines, if you meet the fire code, then obviously you could pretty much do what you need to do. I will submit to you that if every property owner does what he or she wants to do in a very, very tight little area, we could end up with a really serious mess. So right now we have an issue. Again, did this person meet all the regulations and go before the HP? Yes. In talking with Chief Bennett, if we had a serious issue in this alley and the particular shift had to get into that building because it was on fire, we couldn't drag a hose around, 150-foot chain link fence. It's not going to happen. I'm giving him authorization to run it over to get to the building. So that's where we are. Again, no one has done anything wrong, but I'm bringing this to you that as a body, do you really want to address this in this manner? Or if there's reasonable options, can we take them? If there's no action, all we leave it alone, then so be it. But I just want to talk about it.
Well, I think we do need to address it. I mean, it is an issue, and it is a matter of discussion among downtown business people right now. And as you say, right now, the way we have the law written, I mean, people can put up fences, as a fence was put up recently and met all the guidelines, but it still can cause some issues. And not just, as you say, the fire safety issues, but also decorative issues downtown with chain link fencing. I mean, do we want chain link fencing with all the work we're doing in downtown revitalization? So, I mean, it's something to look at. I believe you said that that Valdosta and Thomasville have alleyways downtown in the business district.
They do.
And they don't allow fences in those areas, we think?
Not that I've seen. The only enclosures I've seen is really for HVAC units, just wood that, you don't have the.
We own the alley, right?
Yes, sir.
Could we look at what Thomasville and Valdosta are doing and what
Certainly.
their guidelines are?
Certainly, and we could do that. Just examples about language. I think that's very specific, because the DDA wants to do what's right. Obviously, we have merchants and businesses that they want us to do right by them, but I think this is something very specific that if we have some sample language that you could have, maybe that's a way to go. At least we have some deeper discussion on which pathway you want to go, and if it's do nothing, then that's fine too. But I think it's my job to say we're just flirting with some issues here that we probably can't get this one wrong with regards to aesthetics and public safety.
Yeah. Well, no reason to reinvent the wheel if some communities have already dealt with this and they already have guidelines.
We'll do that and bring it back just as soon as we can, because again, there's no alarms going off, but I just don't want it to get away from us, and then you say, hey, why didn't we talk about this?
If I can find some examples, I'll go ahead and get an email to council, what other cities are doing, that way you can be looking at it, between now and next time we meet.
Okay, that'd be good. Thank you. All right, any other questions regarding that? Okay. All right, Jessica, we have an enterprise zone application. Is there anything particular we need to go over regarding that?
This is from Mr. Harper. He is redoing the building behind here, Merle Norman. They are mainly expanding that to also add a beauty salon there. It's gonna create an estimated of 3 jobs. Based on what he submitted, he meets the criteria based off the renovation budget being 5 to 1 the land value. What's submitted, since he doesn't meet the employees, we're not recommending for the business license. No funding there. Landfill tipping fee, he estimated that be a maximum of around $4,000. And based on what he said his estimate would be on his project cost, the building permit fee is $23.50.
And that breakdown is in our packet, on staff recommendation page.
Mayor and Council, I will add that it has nothing to do with this particular application itself, but this was on my to-do list, and I just did not get around to do it yet. This whole program needs to be reworked, and I'm going to have this done, in the next 2 months. That makes a little more sense, especially on the tax abatements and some of the processes on how we do it. So that's a to-do for me.
Okay. All right, yeah, we had talked about that a little while back. Any questions concerning this application as it's presented?
Is there is it Georgia law, the tax abatement's like 5 years at 100%?
It's got a sunset. It begins to sunset at 8 years. It comes back on the tax digest at a certain.
Well, yeah, I know for
But
first
yes,
5
that's in
years, that's
the
true.
law.
That is
But I
Georgia.
think that, you all would have, that's what's set up in Georgia law.
That's
You-
what we're
you may-
operating
you-
under now.
That's right. I mean, that's the bare minimum. They get 5 years at 100%.
But if we reworked it, we would have the opportunity to change that. Is that correct?
Like if we went like 2 years, 100%, then maybe 3 and 4 at 90, then 80, 64
Yeah,
at 20.
I
something
think
like
y'all,
that.
I think we need to give you thresholds to say, if you're gonna invest $250,000, here's what the incentives, here's what it equal.
Yeah.
1, 2, or 3 year tax abatement. If you're doing $1 million, then it's gonna be this amount, and I think you need tiers so you can make good decisions about that. But there's a lot of ways where this is reimbursable, where the investor will spend the money up front, they give us receipts that, we turn around and reimburse them for the actual investment. So there's a lot of ways to do it. I just think the process is just a little outdated. And again, it has nothing to do with this, but I needed to say that when I saw that, and Jessica and I talked about it. They're just so sporadic, it fell to the back burner.
Well, and I know when we talked about it before, the decision was that this program, this enterprise zone and opportunity zone, was created to incite development, and it's worked. So,
The only thing that and it's great for us, and it's great, but the county doesn't participate in that with us. So
but they do have the option to.
I understand that, but they don't, and so they get the full benefit of that tax value. They're improving the property of $250,000. They're getting the 100% of their money. We're basically giving them 5 years of nothing. So I just know that we need to definitely take a look at that and maybe revisit that. But I didn't know if that was Georgia law or if that was just something that we created to incentivize.
I think we copied Georgia law. I don't think we changed anything. I think we just took the statute and just said, well, this works. This is what we're gonna do.
Right.
But that was a long time ago, and it's time to reevaluate.
There's basically, municipal, accounts would otherwise be levied not to exceed the following schedule. And that's when you give them those schedules of 100%, 5 years,
Okay, so that's
80%, next 2,
okay.
and it goes down from there.
So you can do less.
You can do less.
Because that's a maximum, right?
That's
Maximum
right.
incentive.
That's right.
Maximum
That's what I
incentive. So we could adjust that to,
We can't.
I think
And we
should.
probably need to.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have you some samples here real soon.
When you're looking at that, can you look at too how we could possibly use enterprise and opportunity zones for the Mount Wilson area?
We can actually, that's part of our process to redo the map and where it starts, where the boundaries are for that.
Perfect. All right. Excellent. All right, any other questions regarding the enterprise zone that's been submitted, for the application that's been submitted for consideration? Okay. All right, the next items on the agenda regard alcohol resolutions. And it looks like, Jessica, everybody's an amended license with the exception of the dollar
Yes,
and grocery.
that
amendments.
is actually, Willis Meat Market,
Mhm.
that was previously open. So that's under a new ownership, but the other ones are just, they had a new licensee or a new manager come in with their renewal packet.
Okay. Any
We're-
concerns we need to be aware of? Everything looks in order?
Yes,
Nothing?
staff is
Okay.
recommending all of those.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding those, applications for those amended licenses? Okay?
Yeah, one question. On this Willis Meat Market thing. Do you know if the health department went to look at that thing? They had some terrible issues at that particular spot. At one time or another, there was some roast
You know, I
meat
talked-
sold there, and there was some stuff that, and before we let them, before I will recommend approval of this license for this particular, I want the health department to go look at it. Because
I
it,
talked to Jill Ross at the health department about that for you, and they don't oversee that. That's overseen
no,
by
that's the
USDA.
cooking of it.
Yeah.
We asked you about the cook, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the health concerns of this building here.
Okay. She
Yeah.
said it was USDA, and I
Yeah,
It's,
that's when I asked you about,
Yeah,
about the cooking
right,
in
right.
convenience store.
Yeah.
Who oversaw that? But
It's
this building,
Department of Agriculture, and they have, before we issue them a permit, they have to have one from the state. But this is their alcohol, so their alcohol comes first, so alcohol's different. Alcohol has to be approved by the local level, and then it gets approved by the state. Business license is different, it has to be approved by a higher level, like the health department, or in this case, is the Department of Ag on South 41. So they would have to approve them for a permit before we would issue them a license to open.
And these are new owners too, right?
So
Are
the,
these new owners
yes.
on this?
Clarification, which business are we talking about? Because what we're talking about, anybody,
Right, this is on,
South Central.
this is
It's on
for
Sa-
a business at 910 South Central Avenue called Dollar and Grocery Meats.
okay,
It's item number 10 on your agenda there, Howard. You've got that.
okay, fine.
The other items regarding the alcohol license are just changing a name, basically. It's amending their license. So this is, the one on South Central is a brand new license. All the others have been issued, but anytime a management change happens or anything, we have to amend that license. And so all the others are just amended.
I
This-
just wanted to make sure that
Sure.
we were clear on it, was so everybody was averted.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Mr. Terrell, I don't mind calling them and seeing if they have done an inspection prior to our next meeting.
Okay, cause I wouldn't, excuse me, I wouldn't wanna put a grocery store in there, and the building hadn't been, let's see, let's just say, E. coli. You know, like we just had with the lettuce thing. But now, I knew at one time these people they didn't, the meat wasn't cold enough and it wasn't fresh, and it kinda got, it's just that the whole building itself probably needs to be looked at, I think.
Okay.
You know, before I would, before I approve it, or before I vote, I just want somebody to go in there and look at it. The meat
Okay.
cases, all this stuff, somebody needs to go in there and look at this thing.
Okay. Jessica, you'll make that call to see, okay, and just let us know.
All right.
That would be helpful, thank you. Any other concerns on any of these applications?
But the rest of them, we could just take them all at once.
Yeah, we'll get that next meeting. Okay, I think that's everything we have on our agenda other than the city manager report, so.
Okay, yep, thank you. I just have a couple things, and I'd like to ask Adam to come up to the podium. I felt the need to give a overview of all the current projects that we have going on, and just so you kind of hear where they are, and there's actually one success story that he's going to share with you today from a project that we just recently did. So, Adam, you want to?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for inviting me, Pete. give an update. There's 3 projects that we have going right now. We'll start with the Pebblebrook Water Main project. They're approximately 90% complete with the main line installation, and about 30% of the service lines have been completed. So full project, probably about 70% complete, 30 left, but they're looking at approximately 3 to 4 weeks to being 100% complete. So they're hoping right before Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So that, yeah, that'll be good, and that's full dress up and everything. So that's exciting. That's moving on.
Can I
pretty
stop you
quickly.
real quick? Have
Yes.
any of you had any inquiries about Pebblebrook by chance? I have not had one call about the install, about they ran over my grass, or, you know, my water's a funny color. So it's really a testimony to a great contractor doing
Right.
quality work. So that's a project of that magnitude. That's good stuff for us, so you don't get the calls.
Right,
And I know
they've done a great job continuing to dress up on a daily basis and making sure that the residents are know well in advance of reroutings and things of that nature. So they've done a great job of that. The next one we'll talk about is the fire hydrant replacement project. That's really kicked off a little bit today, kicking off tomorrow with the first hydrants to be replaced. Today they started doing some potholing, which is what we say when they go in and do some, they do some hand digging, investigate where the lines exactly are, what size they are, what material they are, just to make sure they have everything prepared for when they do shut the line down and make the cuts and all that, and they have what they need to put it back in place. So tomorrow they will be replacing 2 hydrants on Central Avenue between 14th and 18th, and then they will continue on around the Murray Park, in between Murray and Park and 14th and 16th. There's 3 hydrants in that area that they'll do, and then they're scheduled to do the hydrants over around Lynn Lastinger. They're waiting until the school is out so that they don't disrupt any school activities or what have you, but they'll be doing that after the 21st. And then they're gonna progressively be going through, and I'll make sure to keep in contact with Morgan so that stays on the website or something, so that the community knows about the involvement and where they're gonna be. And the last project I wanna
Adam,
talk
excuse me,
about-
real
Oh,
quick,
go
just
ahead.
please explain why we're doing the hydrant replacement.
Okay, so what we have in Tifton is a system that was built out in the early 1900s. Some of the hydrants that you'll see will have a date of 1916 on them. Those hydrants are, the ones that we're focusing on are the older hydrants, but they're ones that don't have the big steamer cap on the front. They just have the 2 small 2.5-inch pre-connects. And in essence, that's not enough for a fire truck to hook onto and put out a fire of any magnitude. So we're going to just replace those with something that's more modern, that operates better, that you can get parts. Now there's some of the hydrants there out in the community that the companies are no longer in business, so you can't get parts for to repair them. So we're gonna go through this process to get rid of those old hydrants that you can't repair and that that don't feed enough water for the fire flows, and put in these new hydrants that we can make repairs to, and that meet standards now of today, and that will actually increase and help the ISO ratings, because the flows will be better in those areas.
What are we gonna do with the old hydrants?
We're going to stockpile them for now. I don't know if we'll be able to. We haven't really decided if we. You want it?
I was thinking put them in
We could,
We've got a couple that we want to sandblast and kind of, do a nice little something, one of our earliest ones. But we're gonna stockpile for now, and if we want to do a dog park, or if we want to sell them for scrap or whatever we need to do with them, we'll do that. But
You're not gonna throw them.
we're not getting rid of them right off the bat. No.
but we'll sure do that. I want to raffle one off. That's right. And then has Chief Bennett and the fire department been involved?
Not as of yet, but what we'll wind up doing is every time we put in a new hydrant, it's our practice to go along with the fire department to that hydrant, make sure that it's properly operational, get the addresses down, and get it updated in the fire department system, so that so that they're well aware that it's operational
Good.
And when you're replacing these, does the water have to be cut off in the area and all that
Yes.
stuff? Is that why you're trying to work around? Okay.
Yes, with these hydrants, unfortunately, back when they were put in place, there was not a standard of putting a valve at the hydrant so that you can just shut off the hydrant.
Right.
So we're having to kill a lot of the mains to do this, and we're trying to be cognizant of the communities and getting the information out through Morgan, but we're also trying to do ones in certain areas and keep it small so that once we do get them back live, we can flush and kind of
Sure.
keep the red water down. However, just as you know, there may be some red water, so I hope that the community just bears with us on that. But,
Good. Thank you.
and the last one, the success story, I guess, Tift Avenue Force Main. We have a lift station at the intersection of 26th and Ridge, and there historically it's ran to Tift Avenue, and the force main is dumped out there. And unfortunately, Tift Avenue has grown over the past 20, 30 years in that area of flows coming in, and with that lift station tied into that main line, it's really been over capacity. And so we decided this project, worked in with this project with engineers from ESG and got it designed up, and it's basically complete. There's a few small things left. There's some final dress up, a little bit of paving, and a air relief valve that needs to be put in place. However, the project was pretty well complete and operational by the end of the week last week. Now, where the success story comes in is this weekend we had a 6-inch rain, 6+, and Tift Avenue. There's been there's a couple locations where we normally would have a spill. Dave's Bread Company normally has some issues where his sinks won't drain or back up, and the Tift Avenue main line would actually fill up to the point where it's in the manholes and not just in the piping. No spills this weekend. Dave's Bread noticed no issues. The main line, I checked it today at around lunchtime, and it was flowing half full. So it was a complete success on that end. So we're excited about that. And to even add to that, previously engineer had offered a design to upsize the force main or the gravity main in Tift Avenue. That was about a $1.5 million project with the piping and pavement. We were able to, with this fix, just by taking a better look at things, coming up with an idea, we were able to do this project and alleviate that for a little over $30,000. So,
Wow.
big cost savings there as well.
I'd say.
Does this fix the issue now behind that shopping center where Dave's Bread is?
That's right.
Yes,
So everything is
Well, and that's testimony with the rains that we just had, and we didn't have any backup, and you talk about half capacity in the pipe. That's an awesome project
Yeah.
that, that's, again, testimony of where we're looking, how we're master planning, and some of the problem areas in town. That's as good as it gets, so I'm happy to report that to y'all.
But that was an ongoing issue back there.
Absolutely.
She was having a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So, thank you, that's a great
Thank you, Adam.
report.
Yes, it was.
Thank
You are welcome to come to this table anytime with that kind of good news. That's awesome, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Just real quickly, Mayor Con, I wanted to let each and every one of you know that the management team made a decision. The YMCA every year does having a basket for children, whether from ages 7 to 11 and then 11 to 14 or 15. Again, underprivileged kids that are associated with the YMCA after school programs, and again, it's like adopting a child. So Darren Peavy does a great job with that, and he asked if we wanted to join in. So the staff last year, we did that, and they want to do it again this year. So we're going to be going and shopping for them, creating a basket for a little girl and for a little boy. So we'll be taking that over to the YMCA for Christmas, and I'm real proud of them for joining in again this particular year, and that's something that we're going to do as a management team. So I want to share that with you. Also, I'm real excited about the employee luncheon coming up. Actually, Jessica, I wanted to thank her. She has lined up a motivational speaker that's actually from Tifton. And she's going to be coming in from Atlanta and talking to the employees for about 30 minutes. We're just real excited about that. This is the first time that we've done anything like this. So, and she's doing it for very, very inexpensive, and actually a donation to her nonprofit. So we'll be, I'm just real excited, and her topic is going to be great. So I'm not going to let that out of the bag yet, but I hope you're going to join us for lunch. Another, I want to take just a minute, and again, milestones are one thing, but I told you I wanted to continue to talk about wellness, because the wellness committee itself are doing just big things, changing lives. And if you look over at our chief over there, I don't want to show his legs, because I think he's in shorts, but he's in workout gear, just coming from the gym. And he told me I think it was about 2 weeks ago, that every fireman that we have is a member of a gym now. Think about that. And that's great stuff, that not only the wellness committee, but you're taking, your lifestyle seriously, and that's great for us when you talk about benefits and staying healthy. So I just kudos for the fire department and for the chief for making that happen. I wanted to quickly pass out the legislative summary for this particular year, because obviously we're right around the corner. With that, so with the legislative policies, again, when we go to Mayor's Day, I'm probably going to be asking you if you want to meet up with our legislators and talk about some of the things. Rob and I are going to go through. There's a couple I want to bring to your attention that are probably very noteworthy. But more importantly, there's a sample resolution that, excuse me, here it is, right here, and they're all stapled together. Are they on top? Okay, it's one on top. Yeah. So there's one that sample that I want you to, particularly pay close attention, that from our SDS meetings, if this is something that you're ready to, to bring up. And again, this is something that we have to do jointly, but more importantly, there's a lot of factors involved, and we talk about tourism and hotels. That's something that would have to go through the General Assembly to do that. So I just want to bring that to your attention, and I'll keep you certainly posted on that if there's an appetite to talk further about that. Lastly, I did get notification that the GDOT let the project EB Hamilton notice to proceed on that particular project, so we should start seeing some construction on that particular road, and be working with the county manager on the city of Tifton's commitment that we made for splitting those costs, and I'll be working that out with him and then sharing that with you here real soon. So the last thing that I wanted to tell you is we talked some this morning. Lucretia has made the announcement about the parade for Friday, and we're going to make a go at it for 6 o'clock. Again, just a parade, and then we're going to work to probably plan a hometown holiday celebration, probably in January sometime, with all the events that we had scheduled. So stay tuned for that. But with that, again, with all the festivities, we had to make some gut decisions. But one of the things that was left out, and I wanted to offer this opportunity to you, is that ESG, Michael Mitchum especially, Jeff and Scotty, rest of the crew, with hanging the lights in the park that they do a great job with every year, but more importantly, the decorations here at City Hall. And this really kicks off the Christmas season, lighting the Christmas tree. And I wouldn't think of it more appropriate that you as the board step outside while everybody is here. And Mayor and Council, I'm just asking you to go ahead and not just light that Christmas tree so we can at least start the season. I know we've been interrupted by the weather, but we'll make up for it. But I think that would be most appropriate if you'd like to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Take it on.
Yeah, let's go.
We need executive session too.
We do need to go into executive session. So if you want to, we can adjourn this meeting and go out and light the can
That's
come
best.
back. But let's go ahead and, handle the motion for executive session. And
So I move we go into executive session for personnel.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I do want to make note that, Councilman, Jack Folk is not with us tonight. He is out of town. So we miss having him with us this evening, but we've had a good meeting. So let's take a few minutes and go.
Yeah, because I just asked the staff just to please just hang around for a minute. We'd love to have you.
And, Michael, I would like to ask your sweet daughter if she would be the one to actually light the tree. Because, yeah, because it's all about the magic of Christmas. You gotta have the spirit. So, can you do